echoing Buddha's teaching, an experiential account of his wisdom.
So at the beginning of his sermon, he mentioned about a middle path, which is this progressive path. And he brought up that because of that, really anybody in this world, I mean, whoever wants to make that decision of, looking into them and then going through the spiritual path, need to take some kind of a turning point, right? To turn into this path rather than doing normal thing what you do conventionally. And then it can happen in different incident, different situations. Now, even I don't know whether you can remember that the Heidi on the other class, she was talking about that near-death experience, and then that makes her to think twice and question his faith or her faith. And then finally, she is now in a different denomination, a different sector of the thing, that unity or something. So, and then the same time, she just had the idea of, joining this class and then finding out what we have to say here. So that kind of a trigger point has to come for any human to go into this progressive path. So that is what he meant. He said that really at the very beginning. So that even for himself as Siddhartha, he realized that really something wrong in this existence, and then he was for the first time in his life he saw a dead body, and then he thought, oh, we are all dying. So there is something in here. So that's the trigger point for him to turn around and then see what is going on. So that is what the very first sermon he mentioned about this, saying that really it's a middle path. You have to take a open view of this whole world and then find out what it is and investigate it. So we talked about this on the very first class about eightfold path and then eight different steps and all that. So they are actually, rather than step, they are like folds, in the sense that corners you can, you know, the turn the wheel around. So about it. So as I mentioned earlier, that first step of this whole uh, process is to have some kind of a wisdom, in the sense, some degree of wisdom. Now, in that, Heidi's case, she had that kind of a wisdom because of she had that experience of, near-death experience. And with that thinking pattern, her view, her perspective has changed. So with that is what this is all about on these first two steps on the Eightfold Path. You change your perception and your kind of your idea, and at the same time you have the resolution of, okay, I have to find out this what is going on. So those are the two things that really the two turning point that really embedded in this as first and second the steps or the folds. So that is why I don't want to go to more detail, because this is, the bigger class, I mean, the introductory class. But actually, I want to give the feel about it. What practically how you really follow this path. So first step was that really they have a different degree of wisdom or the view that will trigger you to find out or to investigate your inner essence, and then investigate what is going on in this world. So that's the first group of this Eightfold Path, in the sense that wisdom path. With that, anybody will change their behavior, right? Even that Heidi and her son, I think both were now looking for something, and they were not doing the same thing what they used to do. So that is the part which categorized as this group of, virtue, because your virtue has changed, your moral discipline has changed now, because you are not doing any other, haphazard things anymore, because you have that kind of a commitment that I want to find this thing. So that is being given as these two different fold, like, right speech, in the sense that you will be not gossiping or anything else, like, you are now more trying to talk about what is going on here. And in the same time, the wholesome action is like like what she has done, because she has just give up now. She would have been in that night or in this class, the time when she's spending the class, spending the time in this class. Rather than doing that, she must be doing something else. But rather than doing that, her action was now changed. And then she's just following these classes, or she's following any other teaching to find out what is going on. So that is the wholesome action. And then the wholesome livelihood is that with that, definitely anybody would change their livelihood, not the thing that he used to do anymore, because they will change it to something else. And then, of course, more wholesome in the sense, more open-minded, more focused on the finding out who you are and what is happening in this world. So that is the virtue group of this Eightfold Path. And then, of course, the two, when you are working on that way, you have some kind of a different level of mindfulness or the awareness. That is why this third group, it says that, okay, wholesome effort means now you will be spending more time in finding what is going on in this world, or finding what is happening within you, rather than going to a party or having a good time at the pub or anything. This is more important than that one. So that is how your effort is now changed, and then it's a wholesome effort. And the same way that really your awareness has changed, because earlier you was just going like, you are not never going to die, but now she got that message of, that's a near-death experience. When you die, something different, you will see something differently. So that kind of awareness, now the awareness has been uplifted a little bit, and then it's been refined. So that is I wanted to give that practical aspect of this Eightfold Path. So that is why I put it that way. So think about that way, that your perspective should be, has changed to a different lifestyle. And it is the kind of a spiral thing, because when you start with that, very first incident, whatever the incident, whether your near-death experience or whether you had some kind of a circumstances, or the incident where that really your very close friend died, or close friend had a little, uh, the fatal illness, or there may be some hurricane or some disaster that will trigger you to change your life, in the sense you change your perspective to this whole life, and then you want to find out the purpose of your life. Like you were saying on the other day, what's my purpose of my life? Similar kind of a thought process has changed. So that is, with that, of course, as I mentioned earlier, that you will have that kind of discipline, or the ethical conduct has changed. It's different than it used to be, because that your uh, guiding star has changed, if I put it that way, because now you are looking for something different. And in the same time, with that, your mind, your awareness is little uplifted, because you always now looking for kind of uh, uh, that kind of answers, or the results, or the benefits from that thought process. With that, of course, you will get that wisdom refined. Because originally you had that kind of an incident, or that kind of a uh, uh, situation, that really your mind or your approach has changed, and then it's been refined a little bit of your virtue, or your ethical conduct. And at the same time, you had your your moral discipline, or your mind has been now really detached a little bit, and then your awareness has uplifted a little bit. And at the same time, it's again refined your wisdom. So that's kind of a cycle. That's like a kind of a spiral. So it runs through you all the time, although you may not understand. So it has to run through. So you have to give a little effort for that. Sometimes the people will forget about that, and then again go out of this path, and then go back to that normal life. So then again, it will not happen. So that is why this is being separately identified as a path. And at the same time, he gave a different name for this. This is like a stream enterer. So you will be in the stage of entering to the stream. because this whole life, whole existence is like, the stream flowing down on the downward. But here, what you're doing is you are entering to that stream with that kind of an incident or at that kind of a trigger point. And now you are going to swim upstream rather than downstream. Usually you go downstream, but you have to swim upstream like a salmon. Fish salmon is just go upstream to lay eggs, right? So that is the process. Like now you are going through this whole process upstream. So, and then the person who's really in this kind of a process, like, changing your, with the trigger point, you are now refining your ethical conduct, and then you are going with your disciplines and all that, and then the refining your wisdom. So you are in the process of that progressive path to awaken. So that is what the uh, overall picture of this progressive path. And in fact, this progressive path has two different directions. So the one thing that I mentioned earlier is actually going inwardly. You are investigating your inner essence with that kind of a refining, that spiral kind of behavior. Once you are really adhering to that behavior, you automatically refine your inner essence, and then you with your right action or your wholesome action, you are trying to find out your inner essence. So that means you are going inwardly. And then what will happen is through this process, once you finish at one stage, you will refine, like that like a spiral I mentioned. So you will refine all these different aspects of your life, and at the very end of this process, you will realize your inner essence profoundly. Now, as you mentioned earlier, that really you were just uplifted your awareness, and you have seen, you have experienced that kind of a light coming through the door, and then it's actually getting expanded, and then it's a full light. That kind of experience that will convert or the improve further and further, and then finally you will realize that really you do not need to hang on to or the cling into this self image what you have. And once you really realize that, once you really experience that, and it is being known as non-self experience, that means you are going beyond this conditional world, and then you are going beyond that. So that is where that really you will, it may be for a fraction of a second, you will realize, you will experience that insightful experience within you, that there is no time or no space anymore, because you are beyond that. So once you have that experience, this eightfold path will turn around on the other way, and then it will be outward path. So Buddha mentioned that as the noble eightfold path rather than middle path. So this, see that the kind of the naming convention. At the beginning, he mentioned that as in that his first sermon, he mentioned that as the middle path, because that everybody has to follow. Every mundane person may need to follow this. And once you follow that, and then once you really realize that non-self nature within you, you become a noble person in the sense that you become a stream winner. And after that, still you need to follow the similar kind of process, but in a different way. You are actually, this time you are not following, actually, it is being absorbed to you. So what will happen is you would turn around, and then after that, your process would be outward, in the sense that you will be responding to the outer world rather than reacting emotional. So that's the difference. So because of that, now this progressive path has a different direction. See the difference. The originally the direction was inward. Now once you really got to that stream winner stage, it will turn around and then it will be directing outwardly. So that is a very profound thing, because very rarely people talk about this, because you can't see this kind of a uh, uh, aspect unless if you really realize that first noble truth, in the sense that really have that stream winner stage. So if anybody had that stream winner stage, mean that really he 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 or she realized this 100% and got that first-hand profound experience of non-self. So this is the connection, because that's why Buddha said that really Four Noble Truth is the core of this whole my teaching. But whatever we talk about, it comes back to that Four Noble Truth. And then that first noble truth means that really the person who has gone through this progressive path inwardly, at the very end of that, he will realize, or that person will realize, that non-self nature in you, which is the timeless nature. After that, you will be responding to the outer world. And then that is why it's called outward path. And then Buddha gave a different name, because of this is now noble person is absorbing this path. So that is why he mentioned that as a noble eightfold path now. So you are actually absorbing it. Now you could see that really in this point in time, that really that person has already left the physical nature of your body, in the sense that really you, not that you died, but you have the physical body, but you are detached from it. That person detached from that your physical body is there. It's, you have the sensation, you have the feeling, but you are not really clinging into it, and then you are not really reacting to anything, because you are just using that as a tool. Now, even that physical body. So, but the prominent factor for this person is actually that you're longing. Now you have to let go of that your very rooted longing. So that is why this eightfold path, now he's absorbing this wisdom further and further, refining his wisdom, and he's letting go of this his very rooted longing. So outward processes, of course, you are now refining your inner essence and letting go of your longing. And along with that, you are letting go of your mind, and you're letting go of your feeling. So that is the outward path of this eightfold path. So you see that clear two different directions in this eightfold path. So many scholars and all those people, they may not know about this. Sometimes they miss this part. Even they analyze the first sermon of Buddha's, like that Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. People analyze this, but still they don't find this approach that really Buddha has declared, unless if you really realize that first noble truth. So then only you realize the differentiation between that. But it's clearly out there. When you read all the Pali words, he starts with the middle path, and then at the very beginning, and then after that he talks about the Four Noble Truth. And at the Four Noble Truth, fourth noble truth, he talks about this is the path to liberation, and he refers to that as a noble eightfold path. And then he described this separately. So that is, I just want to highlight that again. Yeah, because this is kind of a different perspective, because I know my own experience. Because since that with the right perspective, that really people can understand, people can really relate to them, rather than just having that like a textbook work and studying of this thing. Now you can relate to them, like even the Heidi would have been she could relate to that her own changing nature of his attitude here, perspective has changed. So this is what it is. Buddha is talking about your inner essence, and then your practical aspect of your life, and then how to deal with it, in the sense how to respond to this whole challenging nature, and then be free from that and be happy all the time. So that is what it is.